It's my distinct pleasure to even know a person from World War II, especially someone who's given so much time. You see him everywhere talking about military things. Pat and our guest today.
For the sake of time, come on up now. We'll do this together. I know you shouldn't start off with an apology, but we didn't have a Veterans Day program, but we tried to, Ollie worked on it. We all worked on it, trying to get something scheduled. It didn't work out, but it's just my pleasure to be able to introduce you today, my good friend, Mel Jenner. Mel just celebrated a birthday. Mel is 101 years old, and he's a true inspiration for all of us. But I think for talking about the Veterans Day and what our veterans have done, we've got so many veterans in the club. I thought at least introduce Mel to us today. And maybe you have questions for him. We might hopefully can maybe get him back later. But anyway, Mel, when he was 19 years old in about 1941, he enlisted into the Army Air Corps. It was the Army Air Corps at that time. And his first assignment in the Army Air Corps, he went to Europe. And what was that, about 42, 41? 1941. Went to Europe, and his first assignment was an A-20 aircraft, A-20 Havoc. Probably not many of us have probably heard of an A-20. But what was neat about it, it was a medium bomber. And it was the best that we had, the bomber, at the beginning of World War II. And the other neat thing about it was a two-crew airplane. It was the pilot and it was Mel. Mel was the radio operator and the gunner. And I just let Mel pick this up and tell us about the A-20.
Well, the A-20 was a fairly fast airplane, and we weren't bothered too much by the German fighters.
Hey, Mel, come a little closer to the microphone there.
Okay. The German fighters would get on our tail, and of course, we just kick it in the butt, go home. But every once in a while, after we dropped our bombs, we'd go down and look for a train. And of course, this was kind of fun. And we'd go along and shoot these freight trains up. And this one time in particular, we had a fairly long train that we was shooting at. And all of a sudden the train stopped. And the engineer came to the door and he waved. Well, it looked to me like he waved his middle finger. Well, so I just turned the gun on him and gave him a short burst. And of course, he fell out of the cab. When I got back to the base, I was telling our intelligence officer what had happened. And he said to me, "Sergeant, are you sure he wasn't going like this?" Well, that has bothered me for 80 years, that I may have made a big mistake. But it has never left my mind. And of course, there was so many other instances where you could have taken a life, but we didn't. I was with the A-20 outfit for a total of 15 missions. And we run out of airplanes. I did a short stint with the RAF because they had some Boston bombers, which was the same as the RA-20. I went back to the American Air Force. We were supposed to get our airplanes the following week. Well, they never came. They went to North Africa. I went in and asked my commander if I could have a transfer. And he looked at me for a minute and he says, "To where?" And I says, "I'd like to go to a B-17 outfit." And he said, "Are you crazy?" I says, "No, I just want to get it over with. I'd already been in England for a year, and well, a week later, I was on my way to the 452nd Bomb Group. That bomb group had just arrived in England and with the 8th Air Force. And you know, it's amazing. When we first went to England, Great Britain told us that we would never be successful in daylight bombing. They had tried it for a number of years and could not succeed. But the 8th Air Force kept plugging away with daylight bombing. And I have to tell you, once I arrived and was assigned to a crew, my first mission, after flying 3-hour missions with the A-20, was 11 hours and 15 minutes. And we had gone to a target in Posen, Poland. I got back to the base. We also that day lost 6 of our airplanes from the group. We got back to the base, and I got out of the airplane and walked to the tail of the airplane and looked up at the sky. And I said, "Oh Lord, did I make the right decision to come here?" I would have had it just about made if I'd have stayed where I was at, but I didn't. I went on to fly 31 more missions in the B-17, and I lost a very, very dear friend and buddy. I watched him go down with no chance of survival.
Okay, I'm gonna skip over a little bit. Can
Okay.
you tell us about your last mission in the B-17?
My last mission was, I was already through with my fight, and my pilot came into our quarters and he said, "They've asked me to get a crew together and they want us to fly a top secret mission." And he says, "It'll be all volunteer. You don't have to go if you don't want to." But he says, "I'd appreciate if we could get our regular crew together." Well, it so happened nobody else volunteered. I volunteered to go with my pilot because he needed me. And the next morning we took off for France, and this was on June the 6th, 1944. And we got to the coast of France, and we started flying up and down the coast, and the boys were going ashore, and it was just a mess. It was so many boats and so many ships, so many airplanes in the air at that time. And I saw tanks in the water, and believe it or not, sometimes they float when they're got the right equipment on them. But of all 25 tanks that I saw in the water, I think 3 of them made it ashore. The rest of them sank along with their crew. And of course, there was bodies in the water that looked like logs. We flew this mission up and down the coast of France, for 3 hours and turned around and went home. And that was the last flight that I had and my last combat fight.
Okay, and then I think, Mel, you ended up with getting 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 9 Air Medals and 2 Commendation Medals. Now, I'm gonna move us, moving forward, I think you flew quite a few missions in a C-54 during the Berlin airlift, which I wish we had time to talk about that, but I'm gonna move it up a little closer. You spent some time at Edwards Air Force Base. Tell us a little bit about what you did at Edwards Air Force Base.
Well, at Edwards Air Force Base, I was stationed there. And I, of course, Edwards was a flight test center. And I flew in the B-29 that dropped Chuck Yeager a number of times. And I was one of the scanners in the B-29 that accompanied him to the takeoff position. Chuck was a heck of a nice guy and a regular country boy. And on the day he broke the sound barrier, I put him in his cockpit and made sure that he was all tied in properly, give him a big salute, and went back to the cockpit of the B-29. And we got to altitude, of course, and dropped Chuck out of the bomb bay.
Okay, now, tell us where you were with the end of your Air Force career, was what, 26 years later?
I was stationed out here at McCoy Air Force Base. And my immediate supervisor was the bombardier that dropped the A-bomb on Japan. And he lived in Windermere. He was a heck of a nice guy. And
Colonel Tibbetts?
but I had I think a wonderful career after the war years was over, and I would have stayed in so many more years, but we were going back and forth to Guam for the Vietnam affair.
Okay, well, there again, we thank Mel so much, and also that you've heard it. This is a rare time, a rare experience to be able to hear it, World War II experiences in detail from somebody who was there and somebody who remembers it so clearly. So again, we thank you so much for Mel. We appreciate all you have done for the country.
I was just a week or so ago in Washington, D.C. with Pat Phillips and his wife Barbara were my escorts. And what a wonderful, wonderful trip that was. It was with a group called American Avenger.
American veterans. So anyway, we've got, I think our time's up. So again, we appreciate it, Mel, and we will.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
When a distinguished veteran speaks, we listen. Thank you so much for your service. Our words can't hardly amount to the stories that you have to tell us. Let's hope we can get you back to speak on the extended version. And thank you for your time. We have the most exciting thing I've been sort of pumping up for 2 months. Sandra is going to take us through the rest of our program for what I think is a historic event. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Sandra.
So I am absolutely thrilled to introduce Theodora to us today. Theodora, besides being a member of our club, is a member of the Trustees Circle of the Arch Clump Society. She has graciously rearranged her schedule to be here this afternoon so that she can share with us why the foundation is so very important to her.
Thank you for that introduction. Well, only in America, friends, fellow Rotarians, can we meet like this, gather like this. Did you know? We have more in common than you think. We all love Rotary. Don't we love Rotary? I, you, everybody. Otherwise, what would we do on Thursday afternoon? Probably business or around the golf if it wasn't raining, right? My name is Theodora Uneke Vedema. I carry a Dutch passport and I grew up in Amsterdam, Mel. We're not in Rotary. Let me make that statement right now. Rotary is in us, in all of us, in all of you. Think about it. We all run for Rotary. Oh, Angel Tree. What else? We're here. Ivy Lane. They tell us where to show up and we show up. Because, Danny, it is the 5-way test. Is it fun? Yes, it is fun. That's why we're here. Otherwise, I got some other things to do. And my friends, it all started with $26.50. More than 100 years ago. Do you know the name? Arts Club. $26.50. Now, for the geniuses in the room, I don't know what that's worth today, but it was a lot of money before the Big Depression, before World War II. Good afternoon, friends. It is such a distinct pleasure to meet all these distinguished guests here today. Now, my story in Rotary started a long time ago. Well, not 41 years, but a long time ago. My husband, my late husband, Gerard, as many of you know him, we had an exchange student, and her name was Charlotte. Where was she from? Eupen Malmedy. You know where that is, where World War II was fought. Well, she just tasted with me with her newest joy in life, baby Desiree. We're family in Rotary, remember, and we always will be. With Charlotte, I was hooked. I became the soccer mom. We went out on vacations. We took trips. We went around the world. Yes, she tagged along, and she was in school here. I had caught the Rotary bug, so to speak. Next thing I know, I'm building a resort in the Dominican Republic. That's my work, real estate, all that. And I see these girls around the streets getting used, being abused. So I started an orphanage. What's in my mind? 20 years ago, I knocked on the door of Rotary in Naples, Florida, because they had connections in the islands. That's what I needed. I was barely into this Rotary Club. Here's where I started 20 years ago. And I said, I can do this. They provide a container. They do customs, and I load the container with girl supplies. You can interpret what that is. We had our bar drive at the penthouse in downtown. Danny was part of that, and many of us. And it was a great success. Why? Connections. It worked. So from there on, it was Charlotte. But a lot more. I love hosting. I signed up everything Rotary. There was a golf tournament, I'd show up. Can I play golf? No, but I own golf clubs. I learned in America, you own golf clubs, you are now a golfer. Try that in Europe, it's not going to work. But here it is. Oh, I won things here and there. One of the only females playing the golf game. So that works really nicely. Now, the other thing that I really liked, not only hosting kids, but hosting governors. We just heard today, they're coming again in January. I'm already signed up. I love hosting. I love hosting people from other parts of the world. Yes, I like to travel other parts of the world as well. It's what I love to do. Remember, Rotary is fun. I make sure it stays fun every day. We had a governor, and many of you know him too, Thomas Hacker. I forget, 2006-ish. He was visiting Orlando on his way to San Diego for training, Rotary training, governor training. And we lucked out with Thomas Hacker from Venezuela and his wife. I look at my husband and said, well, no, we don't speak Spanish, not a word. She was not speaking English, not a word. We didn't see any problem. We could speak German at the dinner table. And guess what? We're still friends today. He travels to Melbourne. I see him in Melbourne. He will travel to Singapore, Rotary Convention. I will see him in Singapore. Him and his wife, the kids, her parents, everybody's on board. That's the beauty of Rotary. It's family and fun. Well, we're family and we should be so proud of that, especially in this world with all the stuff that's going on elsewhere. Thanks to one brave man, Arch Plump, and his $26.50. With that said, we're not just in Rotary, Rotary is in us. And I stick with it. Rotary is in us, that's why we're here. Otherwise, we could find something else to do, no problem, work or pleasure. And I'm sure I will see you all in Singapore. Count me in.
Thank you, Theodore, and your fantastic commitment to the Rotary Foundation as both a Legacy 4 member and as a member of the Arch Plump Society. That is just an amazing commitment. With us today also is Michael Franklin. Michael is currently the district foundation chairperson. As Dick mentioned, he is also governor nominee. And he's probably going to mention this, but I'm going to steal a bit of his thunder because I want to be sure this gets out. It's just too neat of a factoid to take the chance. Michael in 1985, if I remember the year correctly, was at a site where one of the first polio plus inoculations took place. He had not yet joined Rotary. He's been in Rotary for 8 years. He's a member of the Popka Club. If you've never visited the Popka Club, it's a fantastic club with more Florida history, agricultural, political, and cultural than you can believe. So it's worth a great visit. But Michael Franklin, welcome.
Good afternoon, Rotary Club of Orlando. I guess you guys figured the theme out for today, right? Have you figured the theme out for today? I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Who are you? You are the foundation. Each and every one of you are the foundation. Who knows you? The entire world knows you. They know Rotary. They trust Rotary. Today's theme is exactly what Theodore said. When you join Rotary for fellowship, that grows to friendship, and then it grows to family. You are a family. We are a family. When you join Rotary, you have insight. 3 things that make up a Rotarian. And I'm going to ask you another question. The first is you are given these 3 things: faith, hope, and I like to call it love. Today, you probably say, well, usually when a foundation chair comes, they want us to pony up. Not today. Today, I'm here to thank you. The entire time I'm here, I'm going to keep thanking you. If I spoke Spanish, I would say gracias. If I spoke French, I would say merci beaucoup. If I spoke Swahili, I would say umkulu kulu or babalate. Thank you. Right now, I'm in a room of giants. You are the #1 club. You're the oldest club, but you're not an old club. I've seen your numbers. I want to give you some insight on your impact in the community. For your 104 years, you're the same age as the foundation. Can you believe that? Now, the numbers can be a little off. You know, with foundation, we worry with per capita giving to the annual fund, the foundation all-time giving. Now, me, Alex Sakharov, you guys know Dr. Alex Sakharov, past district governor of Andres. We sat down and says, these numbers don't show the impact of the Rotary clubs. If your all-time giving is 700,000 and your per capita annual giving is 129 per member, those numbers are way off. We would have to multiply your TRF giving by at least 10. At least 10. That's $7 million for a 100-year-old club. That's impactful. I've seen your district grants, and I see that you guys are going to embark on a global grant, and we'll walk you through that every step of the way. But this is what I want you to remember. You're not singular. Where there's one of you present, there's a million represented. I'm gonna say that again, and I say it everywhere I go. Where there's one present, there's a million represented. You can walk into a room as a Rotarian and you know there's something that you can do and you can do it. And you share your love when you do it. You share that love. You have the faith in your family and you know the hope. You know the hope. And you use the most powerful of the three is love. I'm not here today to say, give money. You're already doing that. Today, I'm here to say thank you. Gracias. Merci beaucoup. Kulu kulu. Thank you. Thank each and every one of you for all the hard work you do. When you put on events, trust me, we do a 4-day festival. And when we finish that event, you've lost 10 pounds. It takes you 2 weeks to recover. And I know you guys are always on the front line. When the situation happened in Hawaii, we was already looking at District 5150, but what club stepped up and said, you know what, in this district, we'll handle that. You did. Out of 35,000 clubs, you're our leader of the pack. Every club in this district is proud of this club. You guys served us our charter. You're the leaders of the pack. Everyone looks up to the Rotary Club of Orlando. Trust me, I've been to many in the last 5 years. Everybody say, RCO. And I was like, who is RCO? Is that a record? That's like, no, that's the Rotary Club of Orlando. You guys are so impactful. The foundation is you. You know what comes up from RI and the foundation? Your ideas, your causes. What's the most significant thing we do as Rotarians, especially a club presidents, secretary, treasurers? You get an idea from one person in the room. They say, you know what, I saw a cause that we need to be involved in. That moves right on up to the foundation. Everything from clean water to polio, and trust me, everyone's like, when are we going to be done with this polio thing? Let me put this on your lap. When polio first struck here in America, it took us 85 years to eradicate it. 85 years, almost 100 years. Rotary stepped in 1985 and said, you know, we're going to fight this thing. We're going to eradicate it. In 35 years, we have it on the ropes. We're less than 10. Pakistan and Afghanistan, they're holdouts, but we have strongholds in there. And we're going to, in your lifetime, my lifetime, we're going to see the first time ever in the history of this world, a disease be eradicated. Now, the foundation knew early on, and I want you to think of this. If we can eradicate one disease, what does that mean? What does that mean? We can eradicate many. This is the power of you. You're the foundation. I'm not coming to ask you for money. I'm coming to say thank you. Merci beaucoup for all you do. Gracias for all you do. Because your ideas, your will, your time and treasure, you're the foundation. You gotta remember, when we started, it was just an idea. 4 guys getting together, who'd have thought 4 gentlemen would do something as maternal as a mom would. They put the whole world in their bosom and said, we're gonna carry this, whatever it is. Now, some of us remember friends that had polio. Terrible disease. But because of your willingness to continue to fight and to give, we're gonna eradicate polio. Now, that's my little spiel. I'm not gonna give you numbers. I'm just gonna thank you one more time because we have a special part of this day. So, gracias, merci beaucoup, mkulu kulu. Now, yes. Okay, right now we're gonna call up Peter Partlow. Yes, trouble's on the line. Pick it up.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. This is obviously a Paul Harris Fellow, and I'm bringing my wife up here to dedicate this to her and for all the service that she's done and everything for the club.
Let me get these 70-year-old eyes together here. We're gonna call up the first class. We start
First Whitney, Chris,
Chris.
we need you up here.
Peter's already here. Next one is
Craig Pelosi.
Craig Pelosi. Craig Pelosi. Okay.
Okay, and
Second,
also Greg Pace. is here.
Greg Pace. Greg Pace.
His wife has ALS.
Oh,
Okay, what about Brett?
Love
Brett Lovett?
Here.
We're gonna have stand in.
it.
Next,
Diane McWhorter.
Diane McWhorter.
I'm on Zoom.
Oh, okay,
Who is Diane?
okay,
Diane's online.
all right. Ron, was it Tayo? Ron? Tayo? All right.
+1. Okay. Peter, +1.
Calvin Gardner. Joe Stein. Drew Hutgren. Our next class is Richard Harris. At this point, we're at +6, folks. So PHF +6. Okay, now we go into top class. Our +8, we have Stuart Marshall. Also Denny. Denny's here. Yeah. Yeah. Last one is John Taggart.
So everyone that he mentioned. Everyone he mentioned is also awarded their pin and presentation. Sorry they couldn't be here today, but these people have all created greatly for the foundation and the great work the Rotary does around the world, and we are very grateful for their contribution.
Thank you. This is our photo op. Thank you. You guys have a great evening.
For the record, today we recognized 18 members, Paul Harris Plus. Okay, so that's not just the $1,000 entry. This represents over $100,000 in giving. That's what happens behind the scenes of this club. We all talk about who we are Rotarians, we all have these wonderful things. What are our dues? What are we eating for lunch? This is where the work happens. This is being in the room and doing wonderful things. from listening to wonderful veterans to giving money to people who will never know your name. I'm very proud of each and every one of you and so proud to lead this club. Thank you for being in the room.